Hey everyone, Carl here with TriloByte Studios, and I just wanted to let you know that there isn't going to be any fun introduction to this video. This is a terrifying cryptid and a terrifying story. If you have children watching with you, or are faint of heart, I recommend you turn off the video now. For everyone else, I recommend you wait until it's dark, walk outside, find a safe, quiet area to sit, listen to the sounds of the night, and enjoy the video. The scorometer is going to a 9 this week. Be warned. The town of Fouke is located along the southwestern border of Arkansas, close to both Louisiana and Texas. Since the mid-19th century, people in and around the little town of Fouke have claimed to be witness to a monster. The monster is described as a large, hairy, bipedal ape, standing anywhere from 9 to 15 feet tall. Descriptions of the Fouke monster make it sound akin to the most famous North American cryptid, the Sasquatch. Sasquatch, swamp ape, Bigfoot, wild man. These are just a few of the names given to this famous cryptid. First witnessed by native peoples in North America long before European discovery and colonization, the Sasquatch was described by native peoples as a tribe of wild men who were shy and kept to themselves, yet had ferocious tempers when angered or threatened. Sasquatch were even revered as spiritual animals, and sometimes considered to be a deity in native folklore. Sasquatch in the modern era has become something of a pop culture icon. Thousands of TV shows, documentaries, and works of fiction enshrine the Sasquatch as a legend and elevate it to a creature yet unknown to science. Modern sightings and encounters with the Sasquatch do not differ too much from the earliest. That brings us back to Fouke, because the description of a Sasquatch fits the creature known as the Fouke monster perfectly. The monster is said to live in and around the area known as Boggy Creek, a long, meandering creek that winds and trickles its way through the Fouke countryside. During the day, you could not find a more scenic piece of American countryside. Tall trees, rolling hills, and of course, Boggy Creek cutting its way through the middle. But at night, when the shadows grow long and the trees become an entanglement of branches and roots, the scenic countryside turns into a nightmarish landscape, stalked by the monster. Early encounters with the monster were mostly peaceful. Residents simply described what they believed to be a large, hairy man, eyeballing them from the trees. However, panic and turmoil soon enveloped Fouke, as stories from credible witnesses spread from door to door like a plague. In the excitement, the people of Fouke organized a hunting party to track down and kill the beast. They brought in professional men and trained dogs, but to no avail. The dogs refused to track the monster, and the men, try as they might, could not encounter the creature. This hunting effort by the people of Fouke seemed to have an abject effect on the monster, because, after this day, the monster became violent. It was on May 2nd, 1971, when the creature truly made its presence known to the inhabitants of Fouke. Late in the night, Mr. and Mrs. Ford were relaxing when they heard a sound from outside their home. The Fords lived on the outskirts of Fouke, near Boggy Creek, and had only recently moved into this home. Thinking nothing of the sound, they continued to enjoy their evening. Mr. Ford decided to go to bed. Mrs. Ford, however, decided to stay up a little longer. Slowly, she began to doze off, finally falling asleep on the family's couch. Unbeknownst to Mrs. Ford, the monster had been watching. As Mrs. Ford slept, a shadow extended from an open screen window near the couch. The shadow turned into a huge black hand as it came into the light. Outstretched, the shadow reached for Mrs. Ford. Suddenly, Mrs. Ford woke with a start. The hand withdrew and she screamed in terror, catching only a glimpse of the monster that she initially believed to be a bear. Mr. Ford rushed out of the bedroom to see what was the matter and spotted the creature. Slamming the window shut, Mr. Ford called out to his brother Don. Enraged, the creature went into a frenzy, the full force of the monster's fury coming to bear on the Ford's house. Tearing into the home siding and smashing the window, Mr. Ford and his brother Don grabbed their rifles and fired at the monster, hitting it several times. Howling in pain, the monster relented its assault on the residents and staggered off into the night. More terrifying encounters with the creature occurred after this. A local farmer described an incident when 2 of his prized hogs were killed and left to rot. The farmer normally wouldn't have thought much of the incident, but what made it curious is that both of the 200-pound hogs were lifted over the pen's fence. The fence had no visible damage, and the hogs were laid dead just outside the fence's perimeter. Not wanting the stench of the dead hogs to attract more predators to his property, the farmer dragged the dead hogs far away and left them. Returning only a day later, the farmer was shocked to find that both the hogs had been carried away, and there was no trace of them to be found. It seemed there would be no end to the monster's assault on the people of Falk. They had enraged the beast, and now they would pay dearly. More encounters with it led to more panic, more stories, and more people out for the blood of the monster. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, it disappeared. Sightings halted by late 1974, and it seemed that the beast had learned its lesson, making its way back into the groves of Boggy Creek. What had all the inhabitants of Falk seen? It seems unlikely that so many people would be involved in an elaborate hoax. So what was it? What was attacking their town? It wasn't until 1978, when a set of mysterious three-toed tracks were found by local boys near the creek bed, that the beast, once again, became a subject of interest. The monster had indeed returned, and it once again went on a killing spree, slaughtering countless numbers of livestock within weeks of the track's discovery. The people of Falk once again were able to drive off the murderous beast, and this time, it seemed for good. Sightings of the monster became sporadic after the last resurgence in 1978. It seemed as though the monster had finally given up its attack on the town of Falk. Or did it? In the 1990s, people once again claimed to see the Falk monster. This time, however, the monster remained mostly peaceful. If you were to visit Falk today, you wouldn't hear too much about the monster. It seems to have mostly faded from popular memory. The people of Falk have continued to live their lives and moved on. However, if you talk to the old folks in Falk, you'd be witness to a different tale. A tale of death and tragedy. A tale of legend. And above all, a tale of horror. Those old folks might even advise you to stay out of Boggy Creek, no matter how good the fishing is claimed to be. Not heeding their advice, you may go down to Boggy Creek, explore it, and look for the monster yourself. You might even laugh at them while you're down there, forgetting all your worries. You let time slip by and the day wears on while you explore. But as the shadows grow long, and the bright sunny creek turns into a dark, desolate swamp, you get an odd feeling. It feels like you're being watched. All the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and every fiber of your being is screaming at you to leave this horrid place. But it's too late. Night has fallen on Boggy Creek.
Welcome to TriloByte Studios Halloween month. This month we'll be focusing on cryptids. Creatures that may or may not exist, but are nonetheless terrifying. We hope you enjoy the videos.
Hey everyone, Carl here with TriloByte Studios. Well, it's October, and if you couldn't tell from our creepy introduction, this entire month we're going to be looking at cryptids. We decided to ease our audience into cryptids by slowly cranking up the scarometer from 1 to 10 as we progress through each cryptid profile. That said, we're starting things off really slow. This cryptid is rated as a 1 on the scarometer, and is easily one of the most recognizable cryptids in the world. Everyone's favorite lake monster, Nessie! No, wait, that's not right. Everyone's second favorite lovable lake monster, Champ. Now, before we get started, I just wanted to take a minute to thank everyone for all the love and support, and to remind you that if you like the content, then please subscribe and come back every week for more TriloByte Studios. Alright, let's begin. Lake Champlain lies between the states of New York and Vermont. The lake itself also extends into the Quebec region of Canada. It is in a temperate forest environment, is 107 miles long and 14 miles wide. The lake reaches a maximum depth of around 400 feet, and is home to a wide variety of species, including perch, bass, pike, gar, and sturgeon. It is in this environment that Champ is said to reside. But what exactly is Champ? Originally described by native peoples living around Lake Champlain, the Abenaki and the Iroquois described Champ as an 8 to 10 foot long water monster, which resembled a gigantic snake. Then later, in 1609, Samuel D. Champlain wrote that he saw a lake monster some 5 feet long and as thick as a man's leg, possessing silver-gray scales that were impenetrable to a dagger. A pretty vague description from all parties if I say so myself, but they are describing a scientifically plausible creature. Through the years, Champ continued to evolve, sporting fantastical features or measuring gargantuan sizes. It was in 1819 when the first of these fantastical sightings of Champ was reported. A Captain Crumb was in the Bulwaga Bay when he claims to have seen a creature measuring 187 feet long, with a head resembling a seahorse. The captain then claims that the creature reared more than 15 feet out of the water, which allowed the captain a better look at the monster. He says that the monster had 3 teeth, eyes the color of a peeled onion, and a red band round its neck. Personally, I think the captain may have had a bit too much to drink that day. More sightings of a mysterious creature on Lake Champlain continued throughout the 19th century. The legend of Champ grew to such that P.T. Barnum actually put a bounty on Champ's head so he could show off its hide at his World's Fair show. Sightings of Champ persevered into the 20th century, and by 1992, there were more than 600 reported sightings of Champ from people all around the lake. However, it was on Tuesday, July 5th, 1977, that the single most famous photo of Champ was taken. Sandra Mancy snapped the photo, and claims to have seen Champ later, in 1980, when she was driving with her husband along Lake Champlain. She looked out the window and spotted something curious, a post rising from the water, or what she thought was a post. She turned around to inform her husband, and when she turned back, the post was gone. Nothing but ripples on the surface of the water where the post had been. As the legend of Champ grew, so too did the sightings, each eyewitness claiming to have seen something else. But a curious thing began to occur. With each witness, Champ slowly but surely transformed to take on features commonly sported by its Scottish counterpart, Nessie. This new version of Champ, this plesiosaur-like version of Champ, that witnesses claim to see, stands in stark opposition to the original sightings by the natives and Champlain, who both claimed the creature to be serpent-like in nature. When this transformation happened is unclear. However, why it happened may be easier to explain. You see, the brutal truth is that the original sightings of Champ by the natives and Champlain were probably just large sturgeon or pikes that had grown to gargantuan sizes. However, when Champlain wrote in his journal that he had witnessed a monster, he in truth gave birth to a story, and stories change with time. Just as the word dog changes into the word frog in the Pass It On game we all played in elementary school, so too has Champ changed with our perception of the word monster. That explains the inconsistency with the descriptions of Champ over the years. Now, it is entirely possible that each witness who described a different creature did in fact see a different creature than Champlain and the natives, but that is unlikely to be the case. Regardless of if Champ is indeed real or not, it has become part of the modern culture in the people who live around Lake Champlain. Champ is everywhere. T-shirts, signs, bumper stickers, mugs, and even plushies. Champ in truth has become more than just a cryptid. It has become a mascot and an icon. No matter how times change, Champ too will change and continue to influence people for generations to come. We hope you enjoyed this first episode in the month of October, Cryptid Month. Stay tuned because there's still plenty more to come. Hey everyone, Carl here with TriloByte Studios. And as we wind down the month of October, we've found a terrifying cryptid that we feel will max out the scarometer. This is a monster from Scottish lore. The scarometer finally hits a 10 as we take a look at the man-eating horse, the Kelpie. Scotland. A rugged land. A land of myth. A land of legend. A land of heroes and monsters. Scotland is a part of the British Isles and makes up a large part of the Greater United Kingdom. Attached to the northern part of England, Scotland sports a chilly, wet climate and is full of mountains, moors, and forests. It's a harsh land and has bred some of the toughest people on the planet, fighting men and women who are unafraid of almost everything, like Jack Churchill, who stormed the beaches of France on D-Day in the Second World War with a broadsword. Yes, I'm serious. So what on earth could possibly scare people such as these? The answer is the Kelpie. The Kelpie, or water Kelpie, is a shape-shifting aquatic cryptid that hails from Scotland. Its name may be derived from the Scottish Gaelic word meaning heifer or colt. Kelpie are said to be man-eating water horses, which haunt the many lakes and rivers of the Scottish Highlands. Kelpie are said to have shape-shifting abilities, and most commonly, take the form of a tame, beautiful pony or horse. They stalk the areas around their killing pools in that form, in order to attract their favorite prey, children. The children, enthralled at the sight of a tame, beautiful pony, will naturally want to hop on its back for a little ride. However, once the children mount the back of the Kelpie, the beast's skin becomes a sticky trap, and the Kelpie dashes towards its drowning pool, plunging headlong into the deep water, in order to drown their hapless prey before devouring the child's flesh. Kelpies have also been known to transform into young, beautiful maidens, in hopes of attracting larger, older prey. One story of a Kelpie attack focuses on a group of 10 Scottish children. The children were out playing one day when they came across a beautiful black horse near the village river. Fascinated and mesmerized by the horse, all but one child approached the animal. Then, one by one, all of the 9 children climbed upon the Kelpie's back. The 10th child, a boy, the one who had not approached the horse, watched helplessly as the beast transformed into its true terrifying form. The other children, now realizing that they were stuck to the back of a Kelpie, screamed in terror and tried to free themselves. But it was hopeless. They were trapped, soon to be devoured by the ravenous beast. The final child looked on in sheer terror as the beast turned to face him. The Kelpie had not run into the water, as expected. No, instead, it had other plans. Instead of running to the deep water to drown its prey, the monster charged the final child, looking to add one more to its dinner. The boy turned on his heel and ran as fast as his legs could carry him. He could feel the heavy breathing of the Kelpie down his back as he sprinted towards his village, the ravenous beast's maw mere inches from his back. And just as the monster was ready to strike him, he dashed into the safety of the village. Halting its assault, the Kelpie relented, letting the boy survive, and returning to its watery home, with 9 little screaming meals attached to its back. Like I said at the start of the video, Scotland is a land of monsters, but it is not without its heroes. Rumors that the clan of MacGregor once captured a Kelpie by jumping on the creature's back, grabbing its bridle, and holding on as the Kelpie tried to knock the rider off. After breaking the Kelpie to the rider's will, the clan found out that the Kelpie is stronger than 10 horses and makes a great war mount. Legends say that the family has passed down this bridle for generations, but no one will confirm it. So there it is, everyone, the final cryptid in Cryptid Month. We really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, let us know which cryptid was your favorite with a comment. Leave a like if you feel so inclined, and hopefully, we'll see you next time. This is Carl, signing off. Hey there everyone, Carl here with TriloByte Studios. As you've seen in the previous video, for the month of October we're looking at cryptids, and rating them on the Scarometer from 1 to 10, with each progressive episode being a little more scary or bizarre. This week's cryptid is a level 3, but will be the first winged cryptid in our series. He relentlessly chases down his victims from the sky, and is possibly an omen of bad luck. It's often seen before tragedy strikes in its area. This episode, we're looking at the infamous Mothman. Mothman is said to reside in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, located in Mason County by the Ohio River, at the mouth of the Kanawha River and just to the northeast of Huntington, West Virginia. This creature is interesting because the exact date of the first sighting has been documented. On November 12, 1966, in Clinton, West Virginia, gravediggers were working in the cemetery when they saw something strange soaring over their heads. They later described it as a brown human being. This was known to be the very first sighting of what would be known years later as Mothman. A few days after the first Mothman sighting in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, a couple saw what they described as a white winged creature standing 6 to 7 feet tall that appeared in front of the car they were in. After this sighting of Mothman, many others began sharing similar experiences of this creature they had seen. Reporters were skeptical, but would still run stories about the man with wings. While there were many sightings, despite minor details, the majority of the population of Point Pleasant all saw the same creature. Mothman was said to be able to fly at insane speeds, up to 100 miles per hour, and was clumsy on the ground. This cryptid would chase down cars, then scuttle into a nearby field and disappear, leaving those that saw it in fear and disbelief. A sighting by 2 young firefighters said they saw a very large bird with red eyes. A local resident of Salem, West Virginia, was watching TV one night and saw some strange patterns on his television, then heard a noise. He walked outside with a flashlight and shined it in the direction of the noise. He reported seeing 2 red eyes resembling bike reflectors looking at him. After this sighting, his dog disappeared. To this day, he believes Mothman took the dog. From the first encounter in 1966 all the way to 1967, there were several sightings of Mothman. The last sighting in West Virginia was December 15, 1967, on the Silver Bridge right before it collapsed, leaving 46 people dead by drowning or by being crushed underneath the wreckage. Many people believe that Mothman caused the bridge to collapse. Upon a bridge inspection, they found that an eye bar at the top of the bridge had cracked, causing a chain to break and a shift of weight on the bridge that led it to collapse. After this news, everyone believed that Mothman had appeared over the bridge as an omen of this tragic event. After the Silver Bridge collapsed, there weren't any sightings of Mothman for decades, until now. Previously, Mothman was thought to only reside in West Virginia. However, lately he has been spotted moving west. There have been sightings reported in Wisconsin and California, which account identical descriptions to the sightings in West Virginia. But what is Mothman? Is it a creature that already exists? Or is it something unexplainable? According to Assistant Professor Dr. Robert L. Smith at West Virginia University, Mothman is simply a sandhill crane. Sandhill cranes stand almost as tall as the average man, and have bright red flesh around their eyes. He speculates that the sandhill crane is deformed due to the location, giving it a more frightening appearance. One of the sightings of Mothman was near a bunker that was once used for manufacturing munitions during the Second World War. It has been suggested that these bunkers have leaked toxic materials into the neighboring wildlife preserve, possibly affecting nearby animals. He suggests Mothman is just a mutated crane. However, those that have seen Mothman have different opinions. Residents of West Virginia are very familiar with the wildlife in the area. They know all the animals in the area, so the chance of Mothman being mistaken for an animal is unlikely. Further, how are people in other parts of the United States describing the same creature? Is Mothman really just a mutated animal? Or is this creature something more than we can imagine? One thing is for certain. If you're ever in West Virginia late at night, keep your eyes on the sky. Hello everyone, Carl here with TriloByte Studios. As you're all well aware, this month has been about cryptids, and today will be no different. Today, we'll be hopping on a plane for our next cryptid hunt, and departing into the harsh, unforgiving landscape of Nepal. Here, locals have claimed to see a beast unlike any other creature we have explored so far this month. Strap yourselves in, because the scarometer is rocketing to a 7. This is an animal that is said to stand upright, like a man, but has the features and temperament of a primitive ape. Today, we go in search of the Yeti. Nepal is a small landlocked country nestled right between both India and China. It is a mountainous country, as much of its land is taken up by the Himalayan mountain range. In fact, the average elevation in Nepal is just over 3,000 meters above sea level. That's more than 10,000 feet. For context, the highest peak in the United States, Mount McKinley, stands a little over 20,000 feet tall. Nepal has a harsh and unforgiving climate that has bred a robust people, and it is from these amazing people, inhabiting the slopes of the Himalayas, that the legend of this creature hails from. Abominable snowman, man bear, Yeti. These are just some of the names many locals have given to a mysterious large ape high in the Himalayan mountains. People often describe this creature as a large, bipedal, ape-like creature, covered in brown to white hair. Some even claim that they got so close they could see large canines in the mouth. In Tibetan lore, Yeti are classified into 3 subspecies. The first is the Nyalamo, the largest of the subspecies. It is said to have jet black hair, be highly aggressive, and stands nearly 15 feet tall. The second, the Chudi, is an 8-foot tall creature that lives around 8,000 to 10,000 feet above sea level. The third, and final one, is the Rangshami Bombo, which is said to have reddish-brown hair and stands only 3 to 5 feet tall. Each subspecies in itself is terrifying, but the species we will be focusing on today is the largest and most aggressive species, the Nyalamo. There is no definitive way to pinpoint man's first encounter with the Yeti. The people of Nepal have been seeing the Yeti for as long as they and their ancestors have inhabited the region. The Yeti, in Tibetan myth, is said to be many things: an omen of bad luck, a god of hunting, a crucial offering in sacrifices, and even a follower of religious men. All of these things and more encompass the Yeti. The first recorded encounter with the Yeti came from a journal published in 1832. After spending some time in Nepal, Brian Houghton Hodgson claimed that he and his guides witnessed a large, hairy biped that fled from them on sight. Not too long after Hodgson's encounter came another, this time in 1899, when Lawrence Waddell reported that his guides saw a large ape-like creature that left odd footprints in the snow. Many more sightings were to come in the 20th century. The legend of the Yeti turned into fact, and many people from around the world trekked to Nepal in order to witness the creature. The Nazis, yes, the Nazis, actually launched a secret mission to Nepal during the time frame of the Second World War. This secret mission was done in an effort to find and capture a Yeti. The Nazis planned on using the Yeti to create a new race of half-Yeti, half-human super soldiers to assist in the war effort. No, I'm not making this up. By 1951, Western interest in the Yeti had reached pitch fever. The Yeti fever was further exacerbated by the famous track photos taken by Eric Shipton, which showed large, unidentifiable tracks in the snow. At this point, many people in the Western Hemisphere began to believe that the Yeti did, in fact, exist. Now I'll be honest with you, nothing in this profile thus far has been too scary. That's about to change, and you'll see why we gave this a 7 on the Scarometer. Before we get into this story, please understand that this is a real unsolved case, and if you'd like to look more, I'd really recommend you go over to the Wikipedia page and look into this case more closely. This version of the story does not reflect my actual views in regard to the event. This is Cryptid Month after all, and we're trying to scare you. Alright, now it's time to get scary. Consider this your warning. The single most disturbing account regarding the Yeti comes from an event in 1959, now known as the Dyatlov Pass Incident. While it is called the Dyatlov Pass Incident, the incident in fact took place about 1,700 meters, or 5,600 feet away, on the eastern slope of Kulatsiakal, a mountain that is part of the Ural Range. Regardless, this report comes out of Russia and centers on a group of 9 college-age cross-country skiers. The group was out on a skiing trip and originally consisted of 8 men and 2 women, all of whom were experienced Grade 2 hikers. The group would then receive the title of Grade 3 upon their safe return from this expedition. Grade 3 was the highest rank a hiker could achieve. The hikers had their route approved, elected Igor Dyatlov their leader, then set off on January 27th, 1959. Only a day later, on January 28th, one member of the group, Yuri Yudin, had to turn back due to health problems. He did not realize that this was the last time he would see his friends, and that this decision truly saved his life. Initially, the trip was going well, but things quickly changed. The trekkers realized that someone, or something, was stalking them. The journals of the party noted that for the past 2 days, it felt as though they were being watched, and the group became uneasy. The team also noted in their diary that the northern part of the Ural mountain range was known to be home to a Yeti. Mere days before their demise, this haunting picture was taken. It was in the middle of the recovered camera roll. Take this picture as you will. On the evening of February the 1st, the party erected a tent on the eastern slope of Kulatsiakal in an open, exposed position. Why the party of experienced hikers erected their tent in this position instead of in the safety of the tree line is unknown. Perhaps they simply did not want to lose the progress they had made that day. Or maybe they wanted to stay out of the trees and watch for something. Suddenly in the night, a roar was heard. The group's tent came under siege. The Yeti let its wrath be felt. The group panicked and slashed their way out of the tent, not bothering to grab their clothes or even their shoes. They ran off barefooted into the night. Bivouacked under a large pine tree, the half-naked, desperate group tried to start a fire and set up a watch on their tent, but it was in vain. 3 of the members felt the beast's wrath firsthand and died due to severe head and chest trauma. The others too terrified to return to their tent for their clothes or even their shoes, froze to death there, sat under the pine tree while the beast continued its murderous rampage, picking the members off, one by one. The bodies and tent were discovered mere weeks after the incident, and a formal investigation was opened. The tent had indeed been cut open, and all of the party's gear was still inside. More disturbing, many of the victims had sustained horrible injuries. One member had their tongue ripped from their mouth, while another had their eyes gouged out. All of the bodies, found away from the bivouac shelter, had sustained trauma. The other members, sat under that pine tree, did indeed freeze to death. What on earth could have compelled these experienced skiers to mutilate and abandon their tent in the middle of the night, then flee from it, forfeiting their clothes, shoes, and supplies? We may never know. However, the official conclusion to the investigation and the probable cause of death was cited as a compelling force of nature. Hey everyone, Carl here with TriloByte Studios, and happy Halloween. Now, oh, dude, chill. Hey there everyone, Carl here with TriloByte Studios, and happy Halloween. First of all, let me get this out of the way. I apologize for all the white noise in the background, the dogs barking, the car noise, all of it. This is all being done live. Now this is the bonfire video that we had talked about doing a couple of weeks ago, and I said that we were going to get the whole TBS team here. Unfortunately, we were not able to get everybody here, so it looks like it's just going to be me in this video telling some scary stories around this this bonfire. But it should still be a lot of fun. We're going to tell some of your stories. Of course, I'm going to tell all of my stories that I have planned, and we'll get into it once it gets a little bit darker. So, happy Halloween. Hope you enjoy the video. Ooh, that's spooky, isn't it? All right. Hey guys! Whoa, that's really going. Welcome to the bonfire. Okay, so scary stories. Well, I guess we'll start with one that is my own story, and it's a true story. None of the stories that I'm going to tell you today, or well, tonight I should say, are fake. These are all true experiences that I've had. So the first one is pretty tame. See, I work at a movie theater. As a manager, as my daytime job, and working at a theater is nice. It really is. You know, during the day there's always something to do. It's always lively, always a lot of action. But at night, it gets a little creepy sometimes because you know you're in there and you're by yourself, and it's a liminal space because it's one of those places that you always picture as being busy, as being full of people and full of noise. So when everything is off and it's just me there by myself finishing some things up for the night, it gets eerie. And there was one night where I was finishing up my things and I just didn't feel quite right. Nothing seemed correct, I should put it like that. And so I was finishing up all my nightly duties, doing the payroll and finishing up money and things like that. And I just kept getting this weird feeling, weirder and weirder and weirder feeling, as the night grew on and as I was there by myself. So finally, I was finishing up, and I'm getting ready to leave the office and exit the building. And so I come out of the building, and I leave the office, and our office leads in. I shouldn't be telling you this. Our office kind of leads into a back room area, and that has a door that leads out into the lobby, and that's how I leave for the night. So I come out and I'm flipping off all the light switches as I go one by one by one by one. Everything still seems fine. And then I go into the back room and I'm about to exit into the lobby. All the lights are off in the building except for the one that's on in the back room. And so when I turn off that back room light, I open up the door and I step into the lobby. And all of a sudden, my body froze. I mean, and it takes a lot to scare me, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a supernatural guy. I'm a science guy. That's why my channel is, well, the channel is all about science. We like paleontology, we like biology. I'm a science guy. But as soon as I stepped into that dark lobby, my body froze, I couldn't move, and I quite literally made a sound that I just froze up and I went, "Ah!" Like somebody had punched me in the stomach. It was just a reflex. I had no control over this. And as that happened, I kind of tensed up and crouched over, and then as soon as I came back to, having control of my body, I was gone. I was gone. I was out of that door faster than you could say banana. It was just something that, I've done this for a long time. I've worked at that theater for almost 7 years, and nothing up until that point had felt weird about working at that theater until that night. And that night was very strange and very weird and inexplicable. I still have no idea what happened or why my body tensed up like that, but it definitely did. Okay, so now let's go ahead and read off one of your stories. So we've got a couple here, and thank you, by the way, for commenting on that last video. I've got a couple of stories here. We'll start with this one. This one is by Salandi Tyrannus. I apologize if I mispronounced some of the names here. And this one is a bit of an interesting one, because this isn't his story, but his brother's story, actually. So it reads, "The only thing I can provide is a story by my older brother. He told the family after driving home from work. It was pretty late when he arrived, and the path from our home and the Frito-Lay plant, which is where he was working at the time, is separated by mostly just bare desert and farmlands. So he was driving pretty late at night to get back home, when in an instant, something that he described as thin, extremely fast, and pure white in color ran into the car. He ran it over, but decided not to turn back in case whatever it was hadn't died. Still can't think about what it could have been. Honestly, I couldn't tell you either. That's a really interesting one, a very, very interesting one. Thin and white. I mean, who knows what that could have been? Maybe a deer, maybe a possum, maybe even a bird by accident. A really big bird like an owl or something might have flown down and hit the car, which is possible. My parents actually, when they were still dating, they were driving in my dad's Jeep one time, and they actually hit a buzzard. The buzzard, it hit the windshield and covered the windshield. They had to pull over and pull the thing off the windshield. So that's kind of funny. Now this second one, that's my own story. This one's really inexplicable. And I'll be honest with you, it still kind of freaks me out to think about it to this day. And this one is verifiable, because both myself and my fiance were there when this happened. So it was homecoming night. I believe it was a homecoming night. And I think we had only been dating for like 1 or 2 years. And I've always been a bit of an outdoorsy guy. I love the woods. I love nature, as if you couldn't tell from the channel. I love the woods. I love nature. I love being out. And there's some really fantastic hiking trails around where we live. And after homecoming, we decided we were going to go camping out in off of this road. Which I don't even know if we were allowed to do that, but we decided to do it anyway because we were young and kind of stupid. So we decided to go camping after the homecoming dance. So we drive up there. It was a pretty good drive out to where we were going to start camping. And we get there like 5 or 6 o'clock at night, or 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. It's still very light outside. And I had a tent that you could actually, I had a pickup truck at the time that I was driving. And I had a tent that you could pitch in the back of that pickup truck. And I figured that would be perfect because she had never really been camping before, so I didn't know if she would be okay with sleeping basically out in the open, like in a tent in the middle of like a campground or something like that. I think she might have been freaked out. So I said, okay, here's what we'll do. We'll just pull off onto one of these overpasses, and we'll set up the tent in the back of the truck, and then we'll just camp out there. So we get the tent set up in the back of the truck, and everything's fine. We're having a really good evening, and we look at the stars, and everything's just going perfectly. And then it starts to get dark about 9 o'clock, so we crawl into the tent, and before I had left, I downloaded some movies onto my laptop. Boy, that's getting really warm on my leg. I had downloaded some movies onto my laptop that we were going to watch for that evening. And so we watched a couple of them. and it was getting pretty late at that point. I think it was past midnight. It was maybe like 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning at that point. Whew. Holy cannoli, I'm getting really warm. Sorry, one moment. Anyway, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning at this point, and we're laying there, we're getting ready to go to bed, and we had been sharing a headphone, like the corded headphones. We were sharing the headphones, so I only had the one jack on my laptop. So I had it in one ear and she had it in the other ear. So we're laying there, we're getting ready to go to sleep. This was a perfectly still night. No bad weather, no wind, not a cloud in the sky, and we were not parked next to anything. No trees, no branches, nothing that could have done this. And so as we're sitting there, all of a sudden we hear a sound, and it sounds like, I don't know if you'll be able to hear this. It sounds like somebody banging on the side of the truck. And I'm like, what the hell? So I'm thinking that it's maybe like because we were in a national park, so I'm thinking maybe it's a park ranger that is doing this, you know, trying to get us out of there, say we can't camp there. So I said, hello? Is anybody out there? No answer. Okay, that's kind of weird. So we roll back over, like, just ignore it, we'll go to sleep. A couple minutes later, all of a sudden, that sound again. So this time I'm getting I'm starting to freak out, but I don't want to freak out because I know that she would panic if I started to panic. So I say again, hello? And this time I decide to poke my head out of the tent. And I poke my head out, nothing out there. No tree branches next to us, no wind, nothing. Dead silent. So at this point I'm freaking out. And I say, okay, if it happens again, we're out of here. Sure enough, a couple minutes after I had poked my head out, after I came back into the tent, a couple minutes later, somebody banging on the side of the truck. I'm thinking, okay, we need to get out of here. Something really freaky is happening. And luckily, my truck is an older style truck, and so it's got a window that you can actually open from the back. And this tent, it had a window that butted right up against the window of the truck. And so I opened up that window for her, because I can push on it and pop it open. So I opened up the window for her, let her slide through. I had to get out because we couldn't drive out of here with this tent in the bed of my truck because it was going to bust. It was going to, you know, ruin the truck or ruin the tent. So I get out. I drop the tent as fast as I can. I hop in the cab. I get in, and we are gone. We are out of there. And to this day, I could not tell you what was making that sound on the side of my truck. Was it the wind? Was it somebody trying to mess with us? Was it a park ranger trying to you know, tell us that we can't camp here or freaking us out so we'd never come back? Because if it was, he did a darn good job. That's probably one of the freakiest stories that I've got, truth be told. Okay, so another one of your stories, and this is actually the last one that we've got. And I think the person who wrote it, I don't believe their first language is English, so I'm going to try to I'll put it on the screen here for you all to read yourself, but I'll try to kind of, I don't know, translate a little bit, I suppose. So it says, once I was 7, my friend and brother were playing out in the snow. Then a truck driver was unloading things when we saw a dark man running. We tried to find him and saw him again 6 minutes later. Then we went inside. Later in 2021, I was taking out the trash. Then 3 feet away from me, he ran. That is the dark man, I'm supposing, or I'm guessing here. He ran. I told my family, but they said I was crazy. We checked the next door neighbor's Ring camera, and there was no one. This year we moved, and my forest has weird things like calls and footsteps. I even believe I heard a noise coming from my house. So I checked, and then I saw a dark thing move. Then I've never seen it again. That's pretty freaky. Truth be told, again, that's something else I couldn't really tell you what you're seeing there. It's obvious that you're seeing something, but I couldn't tell you what it is. Now, there's one last story that I'd like to tell, and this one's actually my grandfather's story, so it has a bit of sentiment towards me. My grandfather recently passed, and he would never talk about this story. So I think it's okay if I tell it now since he's passed away. Because I think he was worried about his reputation, because people would think he's crazy around here. So him and my great-grandfather, so my grandfather and my great-grandfather, were raccoon hunting one night on a mountain near here. And they had been there before, so they knew, the hunting was pretty good. And they went out. They had some dogs with them, some hounds, because with raccoon hunting, how it works is you want to tree the raccoon basically. And so how you do that is you get your dogs, you get them to scent on the raccoon, and then you send them off, and they'll run it up a tree. And hopefully, if that tree's not close to anything, they can't jump away. So then all the hunters have to do is they follow the dogs. They get one hunter on one side of the tree, the other hunter on the other side of the tree, and then all they have to do is go back and forth, and the raccoon has no place to go. You can just aim up and shoot it. So they were raccoon hunting one night, and they were finishing up, and mind you, this was way back in the day. We're talking like late 30s, early 40s, 1930s, 1940s, and so they were raccoon hunting that night. They were finishing up. They were coming back down off the mountain. They were following a path down off the mountain. Lantern light, not even a modern flashlight, just a lantern light, like a gas lantern. They're coming down off this mountain, and all of a sudden, my great-grandfather tells my grandfather to get behind him. And my grandfather's thinking, what the hell? And the dogs kind of tense up like that. And then they hear something in front of them. Footsteps. In front of them. So they keep heading down the mountain. They're trying to get back down to their truck, which is parked down at the bottom of the mountain. And as they're walking down, they can hear these footsteps all the way around them. So finally, the dogs, they get curious enough, they took off out of the lantern light. They took off and were, howling and barking and trying to run this thing down, whatever it was. And after a couple of minutes, the dogs went quiet and they came bolting back into the lantern light. And they huddled around my grandfather and my great-grandfather's legs. And they would not leave the lantern light. And all the time, as they're walking, they hear around them. It won't come into the light, whatever it is. It stays in the darkness, but it circles them the entire time they're walking. They keep walking down further and further off the mountain. The dogs are still cowering. Nothing. They keep walking. They're just trying to get away from this thing. Great-grandfather fires off a shot, try to scare this thing off, whatever it is, and it works for a second. They don't hear it anymore. They don't hear the footsteps. And then all of a sudden, a couple minutes later, behind them, getting closer and closer. Start circling them again. Eventually, they get all the way down off the mountain. They get down to the bottom of the mountain, and they make their way back to the truck. Now, my grandfather, if you asked him, he'd swear up and down that it was a mountain lion chasing them. And which is entirely possible because I live on the East Coast, and the eastern mountain lion did not go extinct until pretty recently. So it is entirely possible that it was a mountain lion. But truthfully, I couldn't tell you what it was, and he couldn't really tell you what it was because he never saw it. Neither did my great-grandfather. And that one always got to me as a kid, especially when my grandpa was alive, because it was something he was so reluctant to talk about. And my grandpa, he liked to tell stories. I like to tell stories, if you couldn't tell. We're kind of storytelling folk. But that one always really got to me as one of the freakier things that is unexplainable that's happened to somebody very close to me. And there's a couple others that have happened to me that are pretty freaky. But I don't know if I want to talk about them out here by myself, truth be told. Now, there's one other story that I'd like to talk about. And looking back on it now, it's kind of funny. Well, when it happened, it was not funny. But looking back on it now, it's kind of funny. But it's really not funny. when you think about it. It's a hiking story. My buddies and I went and studied abroad in Germany for a couple of months during my college career. And so we decided to start hiking right before I went to Germany to, just kind of connect and bond before I went out of the country for, half a year. So we've been hiking. Well, actually, this was our very first hike that we did together, and it's up in a national park, and it was a long hike. We didn't realize how long this hike was. We only planned to. There's a waterfall about a third of the way into the hike, so we decided that we were going to hike up to this waterfall. We were going to see the waterfall, and then we were going to turn around and head back. Well, once we got to the waterfall, everybody still felt pretty good. So we decided that we were going to keep going. And my one friend, he is a bit on the bigger side. He is about 6'4", and he is like 350, almost 400 pounds. He's a big guy. He's always been big. Ever since I've known him for 15 plus years now. He's always been big. But he's been trying to better himself, and he was trying to lose weight. So you know what? He said, okay, let's keep going. We didn't realize that the hike we were doing was about 13 miles. And so as we were doing the hike, it was really fun at first. We were really just enjoying the hike. We were enjoying being together. Everything was great. And we started pretty early, so we had a decent amount of time. But let me tell you what, even for an experienced hiker like myself and my other friend, 13 miles in a single day, when you're carrying all your crap on your back, that is a lot. That's quite the distance. Because remember, they're not measuring the up and down, right? They're not measuring up and down. They're just measuring across. So you might have to hike a mile, right? But you've got to hike 300 feet up and then 300 feet down. So you can add that onto your mile. So we started this hike and we got to the waterfall. Everybody's fine. We keep on going. And we're having a great time. It starts to get later and later and later in the day. And we're thinking, okay, well, we got to be getting close. We checked, my friend had an app, it's called All Trails. So we checked this app and we're thinking, okay, well, we're almost done. Keeps getting a little bit later and later and later during the day. And my one buddy, the bigger guy, he was starting to go through our water. I mean, he was really going through our water. I mean, quickly. He had brought basically a gallon for himself. Because he's a big guy, he sweats a lot, he needs a lot of water. He had gone through all of that. I had a liter and a canteen, so I had just about a quart and a liter for myself. So I had drank my quart and I was starting to open up my liter when he was like, "Hey, can I have that?" And I said, "Okay." So we gave him that. It was hot, it was summertime, it was 90 degrees. We keep hiking, can't see the end to this trail in sight. We keep looking on my friend's app, where is the end of this trail? We keep hiking and we keep hiking. By this point, I'm dehydrated beyond all belief. He has already gone through my liter of water. He is on the verge of heat exhaustion, almost on the verge of heat stroke. He is definitely overheating. My other buddy, he has also gone through most of his water. We are rationing what little water we have left, and we're not even anywhere near the end of this trail. Now it's about 5 o'clock in the evening. I'm thinking, oh my God, we're going to have to bivouac out here. We're going to have to set up a makeshift camp and hike out in the morning, because I think we were still 5 or 6 miles out from the trail head, and it was 5 o'clock in the evening. And I'm thinking, my God, this is bad. So I didn't want to suggest that to them yet, because I wanted them to know. I wanted them to, keep hiking with all their, I want to say all their might, but to keep hiking with everything that they had. So, best case scenario, we could actually get out of here. So we keep hiking, and finally, then all of a sudden, we're sitting down. My buddy is sitting down. We're sitting down, and he's taking a break. We don't have any water between any of us at this point. And all of a sudden, this tells you how exhausted we were from the heat. I look down the trail, and I see this big black thing. And my sister, she has a big black dog. And I look and I say, why is my sister's dog on the trail? It was a bear. It was a black bear. So my buddy, he was the one who was closest to it. He freaks out. He was the bigger guy. He freaks out. He had never really seen a bear up close before, and so of course I start making noise. I'm like, hey, 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 you know, like go away. And the bear, we surprised the bear just as much as the bear surprised us, because it kind of turned around and it just bolted off. It didn't want any part of us. So at that point I'm thinking, okay, well, probably shouldn't make camp here in bear country. So we decided to keep hiking. And we keep hiking. Not but 10 minutes later, we run into another bear. This time right next to me. I mean, we're talking right next to me. I'm walking up the trail. I look to my left, and all of a sudden I'm looking at a bear square in the eyes. And I say, "Oh, bear!" You know, and the bear kind of bucks up, and turns around and runs off. But at this point, I'm thinking there's no way that these guys are going to want to camp here. And truth be told, we shouldn't camp here. So we keep hiking and hiking and hiking. We encounter one more bear. Same thing happens. Bear freaks out, runs away from us. We also encountered a hive of bees, because at that point I had my empty water bottle and I was whacking it on trees as we were walking by. Because the thing about bears, especially black bears, is they won't bother you if they can hear you coming. If you surprise one, then you're in for some problems. If you walk up on a bear, there's two things it can do. It's either going to react and it's going to run away, or if it's hungry enough, guess what? You're dinner. So, you know, I'm whacking this water bottle on trees as we walk by just to make a different sound, something that sounds unnatural to the bear. And all of a sudden I hit this empty tree and I hear a sound. It sounds like my phone ringing. I'm thinking, what the hell is that? I hit a damn bee nest. So I take off running down the trail. My one friend is deathly allergic to bees, mind you. I tell them to stay back. They hike almost 400 feet out into the woods and then back down and around onto the trail to meet up with me. About 7 o'clock at night, we are still maybe 2 miles out from this trailhead. So we double step. We quick step. The double quick, as they call it in the Army. We hit the double quick all the way out of there. And we don't walk out of those woods till about 8:30 that evening, right before the sunset. Now, looking back on that, my buddies and I, we look back and we laugh because it was pretty funny. You know, we didn't know what we were getting into, and we really were in over our heads. But now, thinking about it, we were almost a missing persons case. I mean, we were really, really close to being a missing person case. Because think about the situation we were in. We didn't really have a map. We were relying on that app. My buddy's phone was dying faster than we could think. We were out of water. We had no food for the morning. We had no blankets, or we had jackets, rain jackets, but we had no blankets for the evening. We'd had to bivouac in a shelter just off the trail. We bivouac there for the night. We wake up. Our phones are dead. We have no water. We have no food. We have no map. And we have no way to know if we're going the right direction or not. We would have been dead if we wouldn't have been able to hike out of there that night. And thinking back on it now, I was stupid. My friends were stupid, you know, because we thought we could do something. We got way in over our heads, and that is how people go missing, and that is how people get hurt. I always like to share that. Well, I like to share that story because it's kind of funny to talk about. There are some funny parts to it, which I normally talk about when I tell that story, but it's not so funny now when I think about it. When I think about what really could have happened. So yeah, the moral of the story is, if you ever go hiking, even if it's on a very well documented trail, be careful, be prepared, be safe, be smart. So that's going to conclude the scary stories with the TriloByte team. Of course, I wish the rest of the team was here with me. Unfortunately, like I said, life just kind of got in the way, and they weren't able to come out and enjoy the fire with me. But thank you, all of you, for enjoying the fire with me, because truthfully, while the team wasn't here, the family was still here, because you guys are kind of like family now. You know, we have our pretty loyal fans who comment on the videos, and we enjoy hearing from them. And I always look forward to seeing all their videos or all their comments on the videos. It's very nice. It's great to look forward to. So we wanted to say thank you for all the interaction you've been giving us recently, and especially a very big thank you and shout out to those people who are subscribed and who check back every Saturday and Wednesday for our new videos. So thank you very, very much, and I hope you have a spooky Halloween. See you later, guys.